You've driven behind a truck 1,000 times. You've sat there, music on, maybe a little too close, staring at the back of that trailer. And you've probably never once thought about that metal bar hanging at the bottom. What even is that thing? Why does it look kind of flimsy? Did someone actually have to die for it to exist? Why is it there on some trucks but seemingly different on others? And is it even doing anything? Or is it just there to look official? Because here's the part that'll bother you. That bar might be the only reason certain people are alive today, and it almost didn't exist at all. That bar is called an underride guard, sometimes called a rear impact guard, sometimes called the Mansfield bar. And we'll get to why in a minute. Its job is simple: stop a car from sliding under the trailer in a crash. That's it. A truck trailer sits several feet off the ground. A car hood sits at bumper height, roughly 2 to 3 feet. And in a rear collision, without that bar, the car doesn't crumple the way it's supposed to. It disappears. The front of the car slides under the trailer, and the trailer cuts through the cabin at windshield height. The bar exists to make sure metal hits metal, not metal hits windshield. So it's not a bumper. It's not structural. It's not holding the truck together. Its entire job is to be in the way at exactly the right height. But here's the weird part. Most people see that bar and assume it works. They figure someone already tested it, rated it, made sure it was strong enough. We do this all the time with safety features. We see the guardrail on a highway curve, and we stop thinking about whether it would actually hold. We see the seatbelt buckle, and we don't ask what force it's rated for. We see the bar under the truck, and we assume the problem is solved. But some of those bars, crash tested, they collapse like a soda can getting stepped on. The bar is required by law in many countries. The strength of that bar, for a long time, was basically up to the manufacturer. And the standard that finally changed that? It was written after a very famous person died. And the gap between "we know this kills people and we made a rule about it" is longer than you'd ever want to believe. June 1967, a 2-lane highway in Louisiana. It was past midnight. Jayne Mansfield, one of the biggest movie stars of the 1950s, someone whose face was on magazine covers across America, was in a car heading to New Orleans for a morning television appearance. A truck ahead of them had slowed down because the road was thick with a fog of mosquito spray that a county truck had just laid down. Visibility was low. The driver didn't see the truck in time. The car went under the trailer at speed. The cabin was completely destroyed on impact, sheared off in less than a second. 3 people in the front seat were killed. Or Mansfield was one of them. The passengers sitting in the back seat survived. The bar that now carries her name wasn't created to honor her. There's no dedication, no plaque. It was built because her death, and the crash photos that spread across newspapers everywhere, made it impossible for engineers and regulators to keep looking away from the problem. But here's the part that'll genuinely make you angry: the full federal mandate requiring rear underride guards on U.S. trucks didn't happen until 1996, nearly 30 years after that crash. 30 years of the same physics, the same highway geometry, the same deadly gap between a car hood and a truck trailer. 30 years of knowing exactly what was happening and not requiring the fix. Slow-moving rules, fast-moving trucks. Now here's where it gets crazy, because the bar existing and the bar working are 2 completely different things. Here's the actual physics, and it's simpler than you'd think. When a car hits the rear of a truck, the goal isn't just to stop the car. It's to redirect the crash energy in the right way. Every modern car has crumple zones, sections of metal built into the front of the car that are designed to fold and collapse on impact. They don't fold because they're weak. They fold on purpose, slowly absorbing the crash force over a longer period of time, spreading it out so it doesn't all slam into the passengers at once. It's the same reason a boxer rolls with a punch instead of standing stiff. The movement absorbs the energy. Those crumple zones only work if something hits the car at the right height, bumper height. The underride guard does exactly that. It grabs the car at bumper level, forces the crumple zones to engage, and gives the crash energy somewhere to go besides straight through the cabin. Without the guard, the car slides under. Nothing engages. And the trailer does the job the crumple zones were supposed to do, except in the worst possible way. But the bar can't just be a solid wall of steel either. It has to be strong enough to hold under impact, but it also can't be so completely rigid that it fires all that force straight back into the passengers like a bat hitting a ball. So it's designed with controlled bending in mind, shaped steel that gives in specific ways at specific moments. Think of it like the difference between landing on concrete and landing on a thick gym mat. Both stop your fall. Only one of them spreads the impact out over time. The engineering trick is making sure the bar bends just enough, and only in the right direction. The problem is partial overlap crashes. That's when only one corner of the car hits the guard instead of hitting it dead center. The car starts to rotate on impact. The guard, only taking force on one side, twists and folds. And the car goes under on the open side anyway. That scenario, a driver just slightly off-center, a wet road, a lane change that went wrong by 2 feet, is the gap that still exists in a lot of current designs. The fix works nearly perfectly in a clean, straight-on hit. An angled hit at even a small offset can still fail. And that's not some rare situation. That's normal driving. That's how most real crashes actually happen. This is also where Underride guards and side guards split into two very different conversations, and where the US and Europe have made two very different decisions. The rear guard protects the back of the trailer, but the full length of a truck's sides? Completely open. A cyclist at an intersection, a pedestrian crossing at the wrong moment, a car that gets clipped during a lane merge, they face the exact same physics from the side. A turning truck can sweep a cyclist under its rear wheels. Same deadly gap, different angle. Many European countries require side guards, solid panels or rigid bars running along the trailer's length that close that opening. The US largely does not require them. Side guards add weight, which cuts fuel efficiency slightly. They add manufacturing cost, and trucking companies push back hard on both. But they also block a category of crash that a rear guard simply cannot touch. The rear guard and the side guard look like cousins. And they solve similar problems. But in the US, one is federally required and one is mostly optional. And that difference is less about the physics and more about who ends up paying for the solution. Here's the thing though, you've been seeing these guards your entire life and never had a name for any of it. Every time you've sat in traffic behind a semi, that bar was right there. The silver horizontal frame hanging under an Amazon delivery truck pulling away from a warehouse? That's the guard. And the chunky steel bar at the back of a refrigerator truck parked at a grocery store loading dock? Same thing. The flatbed crawling through a construction zone. The moving truck you rented to haul furniture across town. The tanker truck you passed on the interstate doing 65. The cement mixer turning onto a side street. The car hauler carrying 6 new vehicles to a dealership. All of them. Every single one has that bar or is supposed to. In the news story you half-watched about a car that went under a truck on the highway, that's a guard that failed its one job, or a truck that wasn't properly equipped. The cycling advocates in cities pushing for side guard requirements on delivery trucks, same physics problem, different angle, different victims. The European lorries you've seen in photos with solid plastic skirting along their sides, those are guards with aerodynamics designed in, solving two problems at once. That uneasy feeling you get when you're driving next to a massive truck at highway speed and your brain says get away from it. That's not paranoia. That's your instincts doing the geometry on this exact problem. You've always been right to feel that. And now you know the specific reason why. Here's the honest part. Mandated doesn't mean adequate. A guard can pass the minimum legal standard, look exactly like it belongs there, and still collapse in a real crash. The Insurance Institute for Highway Safety, the IIHS, the independent group that does serious crash testing beyond what the government requires, has been pushing for stronger standards for years. In their tests, a significant number of guards on trucks currently rolling down U.S. highways earn a rating of poor. They hold in clean, centered impacts. They fold in partial overlap. But the somewhat reassuring news is that most real-world rear underride crashes happen when trucks are slowing down or stopped, not at full highway speed. The guard performs well enough in the majority of real situations, but well enough in most situations is a strange place to stop when you're talking about a vehicle that weighs up to 80,000 pounds. Newer guard designs, wider coverage, stronger steel, built specifically to handle offset impacts, exist and are slowly making it onto new trucks. And regulation is moving in the right direction. It's just not moving fast. That bar isn't a bumper. It's a mandate built from consequence, shaped by a crash in 1967 and a federal rule that took 30 years to arrive. It works, most of the time. It's getting better, not fast enough. But now you'll never drive behind a truck and see nothing.